Greetings. Welcome to Seriously No BS, a hard talk on education. I'm Robert Davis with Dr. Elizabeth Taylor. This show is being sponsored by Anywhere Healing and Wisdom to Go. And before we get started today, Dr. E, I'd like to provide an education quote from Margaret Mead. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. So seriously, no BS is exactly that. We'll be calling out the BS surrounding the educational systems during 13 one-hour episodes, including talking about the education industrial complex and wealth building and its contribution to the school-to-prison pipeline and the prison industrial complex. The impact of trauma in education, including the role of empowering students, parents, and teachers in ways to explore emerging strategy to reimagine, revitalize, and revolutionize education, and new technologies that are on the horizon, including AI, AR, and virtual reality. So please join Dr. E and Bob on this journey as they call out the BS in the traditional mandated models of education.
It's a great introduction, Bob, and there's a lot more coming. So thank you for tuning in. Both Bob and I are here to bring our combined backgrounds in education and as business people and working on social issues for many, many years. We're not experts, but we are passionate about this subject of education and what's going on in our country and in the world. And this is a fabulous platform and a potent platform for us to share some of our insights and information with you on the story of our educational system yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And perhaps in the process, we can identify some sound strategies to rethink, reimagine, and evolve how we learn and grow. The 13 episodes of this podcast will unfold as we probe into the undeniable problems in education today, which is part one. And in part two, we're going to tune into new ways of thinking about education and doing education. In part three, we'll be doing a deeper dive into where we go from here. You, as a listening audience and the viewing audience, are invited to participate in this unfolding. But before we go, let me just say something here. I'm the hat lady here.
I like your hat,
this is a major undertaking for us. And there are reasons for the hat. And we decided that hats would be my theme, myself and my production crew. Because as a person, I wear many hats in my life. I'm a mother, I'm a professional, I'm a writer, I'm a friend, I'm a girlfriend, and a couple of other things too. So, and my clothes horse days, my days of being a clothes horse are long gone, but I have a lot of clothes in my closet, and I've been cleaning up my closets these past few weeks, and I came across all these hats. So I said, what am I going to do with all these hats? So that's another reason why I will be the hat lady on the show. So because I wear many hats and because I have to give my hat some airtime, here we go. There'll be a different hat every day, I think. So let's talk about the bullshit. Yeah?
Yes.
First, let me say that the keener my bullshit radar becomes. I can basically see it a mile coming down the road, even from within myself. I can't stand it. And I have to call it out because when bullshit hits the scene, it stifles, it blocks, it screws things up. It blocks the energy, it blocks progress. So I think that Bob and I share that, don't we, Bob?
Yes, we do.
We're kind of sick and tired of the bullshit, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not only in education, it's everywhere. It's in government, it's in medical, it's
today.
everywhere, in relationships. So we're done. So we're bringing this to you to say we're going to call it out in this platform as best we can so that we can all learn and grow from what we present here. With me, it's like the fable of the princess and the pea. You know, I can see it coming from a mile away. You want me to tell you that story?
What is that?
Okay. Is it Hans Christian Andersen?
I
Yes.
think so,
Okay,
yeah.
Hans Christian Andersen. So there is a story about a mother, the mother of a prince, and she wanted to find a good wife for her son, as most mothers, any mother would want to do. I'd like a good wife for my son, you know. Um, so along comes this kind of homely looking girl who could be a possible wife, and the mother had an idea that she would test this young girl to see if she would be a worthy wife for her son. So it came that she was going to be sleeping on 100 mattresses, I think. But the mother put a pea at the bottom of the mattress. Now, if she were a true princess, she would know that the pea was there. So the young lady slept on the mattresses, the 100 mattresses, and she felt the pee, which proved the mother's point. This is your wife. So when we talk about the bullshit, that bullshit can be like a tiny little pea. That can be under 100 mattresses, and we, in our age, at this time of our lives, we can see it coming, and we're sick of it.
That's such a great story. Thank you. Thank you for
I like to
sharing
tell
that.
it. Yes.
But Dr. E, how do we define bullshit? I hear that word so much, but really, what does it mean?
Oh, we talked about this, and it took us a while, but we came up with this. And bullshit is something that is untrue, is nonsensical rhetoric that is meant to manipulate and or to deceive.
Yeah, and
Period.
I like the word manipulate
Period.
and deceive.
Yes,
because
that's
what
bullshit.
is happening every day. You know, and the qualifying questions that make something worth taking seriously: is there evidence to back it up? And what purpose does it serve? And can it stand alone on its own merits when challenged?
Yeah, and that's an important line of thinking. We need to repeat that. I call these the bullshit demystifiers. So the bullshit demystifier is that, number one, what evidence does it have to back it up? Is there proof? Is there any real proof for it? Number two, what purpose does it serve? Is there a purpose for it? You know? And the third thing, can it stand up alone on its own merits when it is challenged? If it can't meet those standards, it is BS.
And you know, and I think about in today's world, we keep hearing this word about misinformation or fake news, and I call it all bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, when I was on the school board, when I served on the school board, that's what was happening to me all the time. When I was trying to speak the truth, there was just a massive amount of misinformation and fake news. And it was just all bullshit. And that's what goes on today.
Yes, yes. So here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. So when you're experiencing that, I mean, when have we called bullshit out? I mean, is it appropriate to say, hey, wait a minute, that is bullshit? You know, I always think of these things. I'm thinking in my mind, that just doesn't sound right.
I watch the news. I used to watch a lot of news years ago, and I stopped watching regular news because I saw a lot of the BS there. I when I want to learn what's going on in the world now, I go to YouTube. I think some of the YouTubers are very authentic. Their information is real. The much less BS because they're less controlled, and they have more freedom to talk the truth. And maybe that's something else we need to talk about is what really is what is the source of the bullshit? Is that what is it hiding? You know, what is it afraid of?
And you know, if I could comment on a word that you said, you know, the truth or the truth.
Yes.
Right? So during my time when all the misinformation was being put out about me, you know, I thought about it. You know what I believe about the truth is what you believe.
Your truth is what you believe, and the one person's truth is not the same truth to another person. My truth may not be your truth.
No, absolutely.
So it's what you feel internally. Internally. So when we talk about BS, just talking about myself, I know because I want to be true to myself in every possible way. That means I know when I'm BSing, when I'm bullshitting either someone else or myself. So because I want to be true to myself, I say I have to stay away from the BS.
Yeah.
If we can all kind of hold to that.
I think
keep an eye on ourselves.
The sad thing that's going on in the world or our country today is there's so much divisiveness.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So people are saying one thing, but over here people are describing the same thing in a different manner. It's just like saying the sky is not blue, but it is.
But it is. But
people
it
try
is.
to make you believe that,
But
right?
it is. But it
and,
is.
And you just have to call it out. Seriously, that's bullshit.
And when you do, you clear the air.
Yes.
You clear the air, and I'm an energy person too. The energy is less muddled. The energy flows better. It's more pure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And something happens to one internally too when they can say, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I was BSing around, but now that you caught me on it, now that you called me out, I think I'm big enough to face it, and I can come across in a different way. So part of the magic here, which is what we're trying to do in this show, is to shine a light on a lot of things.
Yeah.
We're here to shine the light on the issues, basically.
Yeah. And, and bringing this back to education, during my time in education on the school board and everything, I worked with a lot of students. And, I think the name of our show kind of came from a student that told me one time, Mr. Davis, that's just a bunch of bullshit. And it really hit home. It's like, you're right. That is a bunch of bullshit. So, we're going to get into that. We're going to be talking about the bullshit in education.
And I am glad that it's not technically a bad word or a slang, nasty word that you can't say. So we can say it as much as we want to. Right?
Well, I'm from the Midwest. So I grew up on the farm, so I know what bullshit smells like.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Yes, yes.
Back there, they say that's the smell of money.
Oh, my gosh. So here we need to take a commercial break, right?
Yeah, I think real soon we're going to take a break and talk about our sponsors. But, I really like this conversation, how we're starting this off and really defining what bullshit is. We put it in a technical way, but just in the everyday sense.
Right. So, Bob, if on this program, on this podcast, if you catch me doing the BS, you're going to call me out, right? And if I catch you doing the BS, I'm going to call you out, right?
I'm in for that.
You in for it? You
Let's
up for
do
it?
Okay, I know we're going to get there.
We're going to get there.
We're going to get there. Because, I just know that we don't agree on everything.
No, we don't.
And we shouldn't.
No,
right?
and we don't.
We should have different ideas.
Yes, yeah.
But it's how we deal with that. And,
yes.
And I think that we can come across to our audience that we can agree to disagree.
We can agree to disagree and stand in our own truth with integrity and with respect for one another.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we've seen that disappear.
Yes, we have.
In the talking world today.
Yes, we have.
If I disagree with you, I'm some kind of bad guy, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's that's kind of where we're at and where we're going to go with this.
Okay.
So I'm really hoping that we can really dive deep into this bullshit.
And in terms of our viewing audience and our listening audience, we want to invite you also to call in, check in with us, and help us with this presentation. And call us out if we need to be called out.
Yeah, and if there's any students or parents,
no haters, please. but no haters, please. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But call us out.
Yeah, really, absolutely. And if there's any students or parents out there that has experienced that,
the lines will be open for
really,
that.
The lines will be open, and you can get involved in that and really let us know some of the bullshit that you've seen and that you want to call out. So hopefully we can get there and really, really dive deeper and deeper into this. So I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good, really good. So I'm looking forward to it on this journey. So
here we go.
Welcome.
All right.
So here we go.
A single woman walks a difficult path in the Middle East. An experienced American educator, Dr. Elizabeth Taylor boldly took on the challenge and lived and worked 5 years in Saudi Arabia. Under the Abaya is a rare, close-up, and intimate report on the young women she taught and mentored, and also the country they hope to change. This book is perfect for anyone interested in the Middle East and wants a personal, inside look at the changing Saudi Arabia. Independent women and the men who respect them will find special pleasure in Dr. Elizabeth Taylor's candid account of her tribulations and triumphs during her 5 years in this mysterious country. Purchase your copy of Under the Abaya today at wisdomtogo.com.
Welcome back to Seriously No BS, a hard talk on education with Robert Bob Davis and Dr. Elizabeth Taylor. So here we are, Seriously No BS. So let's cut to the chase and dive right into the undeniable problem with education today. We first need to discuss the toxic culture of education, which is the mandated model of education. So, Dr. Elizabeth, has your experience with what is the mandated model of education, how is that? What is the mandated model of education, and where did that come from?
The mandated model of education has been with us a long time, and I've done some research to clarify my understanding of its origins. And the culture of education in our society is, as we say, it's mandated and it's compulsory. Massachusetts was the first state in the U.S. that enacted this compulsory educational law. It was in 1852. This was followed by a similar law that was passed in 1647 when it was still a British colony. The 1852 law required that all towns, townships, and cities were to provide primary learning in grammar and basic arithmetic to all children. And why was it mandatory? It was because the founding fathers maintained that the success of the then fragile and developing American democracy would depend on the competency of its citizens. In essence, public schooling would prepare people to be democratic citizens. And what does that mean? Big question. But in brief, it meant that people must be able to participate and be active in society and to work and serve the public good. That diploma and college degree that we get today, that graduates receive with pride, are their tickets to participate in capitalistic society. I have one, you have them. It got us this far, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, but what I also gleaned from this was that what was in place then in that old model when this was all developing and what is in place now is still necessary because the system needs to turn out workers. It still needs to turn out people to consume to help our society function, basically. And in order to do that, one at least has to know how to read. You have to know how to add and subtract, to put it simply. So the interesting thing here is that homeschooling began to question this model in the 1970s, when a man named John Holt began to question the formal schooling process, criticizing its focus on just rote learning and learning that generated oppressive classroom environments and which made children compliant employees as adults. Yet in terms of homeschooling still had to meet the standards and the criteria for the mandatory compulsory model of education. So we still couldn't get away from it.
If I could kind of make a comment on that. I mean, when we look at the Industrial Revolution, right? Guys like Rockefeller, Henry Ford, they needed workers, right?
Yes.
And they realized that our public education system was the place for that early training. So we started seeing that in the early 1900s, where these large corporations needed those worker bees, and they turned the education, the mandated model, into the training for factory workers. Sad thing about that, it still went on for many, many years, even after we've moved out of the Industrial Revolution. So that's something that we're really going to talk about and get into, because to me, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we don't need that anymore. But why do we still have that model?
And what that model did was that industrial work model was also paralleled in the school system.
Yes.
Whereby learning was, in order to be a good student and in order to learn, you had to kind of be beat over the head, so to speak, right? Do what I say, learn what I say. Let me pour this into your head. And you're basically an empty vessel. So it was a parallel between that and the Industrial Work Society. Of course it was.
I mean, to me, I call it that command and control.
Command and control.
I'm the teacher, you're the student, so therefore I control you all day long.
Right.
Right?
So quandary,
Yeah, I mean, it was set up to train people to work in factories. They set all in a row of, the desk, the bell rang,
making widgets and all that. Yeah.
Making the widgets.
Right.
So absolutely.
So we're still stuck with that model, basically. And so the quandary is, again, I say we're still stuck with this model, both in the workplace, by and large, and in our school systems.
Yes.
So that system that John Holt criticized due to the need for people to earn a living to work at corporations is still in place today, nationally and globally.
Mm-hmm.
But something that is increasingly challenging us today is that people are waking up and challenging this whole model. But ironically, we still have to earn a living. Today's workplace, living today, still requires two parents. And the good old days of leave it to Beaver and June Cleaver staying at home all day are gone, long, long gone. So we have a problem, which leaves us with the question of how do we learn and grow from here in a dynamic and technologically evolving and technologically fueled world? In my view, education stays with us from our early school years through high school, even college,
Mm-hmm.
which conditions us still to this day to be workers, to be consumers, and I'll take it a step further to be dumb, down, and scared.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that?
And I agree with that statement,
Yes.
Dr. E. Is how do we learn? But to me, I have to ask, what is the purpose of education, and what and how are schools teaching our children? And I might add also, what are schools not teaching our children?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big question.
Absolutely.
But I'd like to expand on the word purpose, and I believe schools should be designed for leading kids into purpose, and our kids are trying to learn in schools designed over a century ago that we talked about, and we know from our children, schools are broken and the pressures are far worse today. Our children are living in the greatest mental health crisis ever recorded. I mean, every day you hear about suicides, things that's going on, depression, things like that.
Yes.
So the problem is meaninglessness.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Kids don't have any meaning. There's no meaning.
Yes.
But what if the purpose of the school is just that? Purpose.
And I would add a little bit more to that. I think that we have to have an entirely different curriculum. We have to rethink our curriculum entirely. I would imagine a curriculum that focuses on purpose, and we have to be specific as to what we mean, how we define purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a curriculum that start out at earlier ages that focuses on mindfulness, that focuses on character building.
Yes.
That focuses on civility, values, respect, and all of that.
Right.
At the early age, those can be learned because they're being learned anyway, aren't they?
Yes.
They're being learned in the family.
Yes.
So the school can be a medium, a place where they can be kind of strengthened, the learning, reinforced, both basically. Those are kind of things I see going on.
Yeah.
Meaningfulness and purpose. Of course, we have to learn how to read.
Yes.
We have to learn how to write. We have to know how to add and subtract.
Yeah.
But we have to learn other things, how to be a full, well-rounded human being as well.
Yeah. But, to me, what if we design schools specifically to help kids thrive? What is that? I mean, that's a big word. How do we do that? And purpose is about meaning and gifts on the inside that connects to a consequential benefits on the outside. So, we know from science that students with purpose are deeper learners and better stress managers when they really understand that. So in following up with what we talked about earlier about know thyself, I have an educational belief in a new model of thinking. And I believe in it, and it's this: learn to think, learn to do, and learn to be.
Yes.
So if we model that in the schools, instead of teaching at the kids, helping them learn how to think for themselves. And I have a story about that, and I'd like to share with you when we have some time. But learning to do, when you talked about rote memory, you go in, study for a test, you come out, you take the test. The next day, you forgot everything you do.
Yes.
You said.
Yes.
But if we had kids that presented their work, right, they could do what they learned, right? So we know that they're learning. They're just not taking a test and moving on. But learning to be is very important. That know thyself, learning to be. Who are you?
Yes.
Who are you? And that's that meaning meaningfulness, and that purpose, learning those areas.
Yes, we're going to have imagine rewriting the entire curriculum, which could be kind of tricky, which could be dangerous, because a corporation would ask the question, well, what does purpose have to do with, my profit, my bottom line, right? What does meaningfulness have to do with me making my making the stock market and my shareholders happy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's a wild time we're in, but this is what's being demanded right now. We have to pay attention to this, because the schools are falling apart because this is not happening.
No,
because
absolutely.
the right kind of learning is not taking place.
Yeah.
Schools are falling apart, and that's going to inevitably affect the corporation, don't you think?
No,
motivation of employees, bottom line, and all that.
Absolutely.
So we have to look at this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, what we're talking about is creativity, curiosity, critical thinking.
Yes.
But do the powers to be?
They don't want that.
Right?
They want the worker bees. They want us to go. They want us to work and then spend our money at the Macy's and the stores and the Targets and the Walmarts to pump up their bottom line. So it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah. And whenever you introduce change into anything, it's not an overnight thing.
Yes.
But I think we're going to get into more of that.
Yes.
As we get ready to prepare to go into a commercial break.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that as we come out of that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's going to be very important that we talk more about that and what we can do to really work through that. So
good.
I think it'd be good. So,
okay, Bob.
Great.
Okay.
The Alpha Wearable from Anywhere Healing is a personal wellness device you wear on your wrist, like a watch. Using advanced bioresonance technology, it boosts energy, reduces stress, and promotes natural healing. Elevate your well-being with the Alpha Wearable. Get yours today with a 10% discount when you order from hatsif.net. That's HATSF.net. Click the link on the HATSIF homepage and start your journey to wellness today.
Welcome back to Seriously No Bullshit. And Bob, that was a very good discussion we just ended on before the commercial break about the role of corporations and schools and that parallel relationship there. And there's a lot more we need to say to dive into that. But before we do that, can you you mentioned to me your own personal story growing up in the school system, what you experienced, and I think it has some relevance and meaning for our audience. Could you tell us something about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. One of the things I like to follow up with, I was talking about those three ways of learn to think, learn to do, and learn to be. And I just like to share a real quick story about my last year in college. And I had a professor, there's like 7 of us in the class. So the professor walks in on the first day and he just writes the answer. It was like an answer on the board, and he walked out. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't say who he was or anything like that. And he just left. So we're all sitting there looking at each other like, what's going on here, right? I've spent 4 years in college and this guy doesn't even introduce himself. So at the end of the class, he comes back and he says, okay, so what's the question to this answer? We're like, well, you didn't tell us. You didn't tell us what we needed to do. You didn't guide us on what we needed to prepare for. So he wrote another answer on and he left. He still hasn't introduced himself who he is, right? So we're like, what is wrong with this guy, right? So he comes back and he says, so what's the question? And we're like, well, you didn't tell us what we needed to know. And he said, exactly. So he says, what we're going to do, we're going to learn how to think for ourselves. And, I credit that professor because he gave me the power to understand that I could think for myself and make my own decisions. And I didn't need someone in front of a class to tell me that. So it was a powerful class. It was an education class. But anyway, so, I
like that story. I'm going to borrow that tactic.
Yeah,
when I teach
and
another
that's where
class.
learn to think.
I like
Teach kids
that.
how to learn to think. They don't need us any longer.
Yeah, put the answer up there and what is the question? I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once we give them the permission to learn to think, we just don't give kids enough credit for what they know, the potential they do.
That's true. That's
So,
true.
so
What about
in
your
this,
earlier days
yeah,
in school,
yeah.
growing
So
up?
yeah, in this new model,
Yes.
we need to ask, who should decide what should be taught in the schools, and I believe we'll be expanding on this new model in a future episode. But briefly, I see this new model that empowers students, parents, and teachers with a bottom-up type method of leadership and ownership of their educational experience. In addition to the concept of know thyself, we know from the model of command and control instruction is the fact that some teachers do more harm than good in the bias of assessing a student. And we know that.
Yes.
How
Yes.
everyone has their own biases, right?
Yes.
And, and I don't know if we want to get in this, but we know that about 80% of our teachers are white females. And I don't want to get into race or anything like that,
Yes.
but we really need to focus on that.
Yes. Yes.
But, so, I like to share an experience that I had early in my high school years with a guidance counselor. And it was when I was in my freshman year, ninth grade year. And I have to tell you, this is something that has stuck with me for all these years, even today. And I'm talking about over 50 years ago. It's like I wake up with that thought in my mind every time. So, in deciding my, path through high school, my guidance counselor told me that I couldn't go to college because I was just too stupid. And that my family was too poor. And she said I would do better in a vocational school. And she placed me in this class, in this vocation class, for 2 years. I had no interest. I'm not mechanically sound or whatever. So it was tough. It was hard. But I got stuck in this program. I had zero interest in it. But what became telling is that I believed the message that I wasn't smart enough. And, the consequences of that message, what it did to me is that my grades began to nosedive, and I barely graduated from high school, barely. I was at the bottom of my class. But a year after graduating from high school, I waited a whole year. I did start college. And what was surprising, well, not really, the self-fulfilling prophecy came true. I was placed on academic probation my first year with, possibly dismissal from school. So what she told me stuck with me. It was true. It went in my head. I was just too stupid. And that really, that really affected me. So going forward, I had a decision to make. Either I was going to really work really, really hard or let this guidance counselor live in my head and that I would just accept the message that I was just too stupid. But I worked really, really, really hard. And I got off of academic probation. And in my last year of college, I was on the dean's list. 3.8, right? I couldn't believe it. But, you remember I just told you the story about the professor that told me to start thinking for myself.
Yes.
And I did.
He came back to you. That came back to you.
Me. It overtook
that other one. Yes, my goodness. Wow.
So it was really tough. But, and I think you and I have talked about this is that, the way I look at that guidance counselor before, it was a message, a positive message in my head that I was just, but what I realized, it became a motivator.
Yes.
It motivated me to say, this is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
I overcame that. And it's a motivator to me now that, I've done many things in my life. And it really, I don't really want to say it, but I have to give her credit for that.
She motivated you.
She motivated me.
By proving that you were not what she said you were.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was much better than that.
Yes.
I had the potential.
Yes.
So that she labeled me. And what's sad is that, I hear stories like that a lot now.
So many children, so many young
And it's
children,
still
even
happening
college,
today.
even from elementary, even through college, have that same experience, have that same word. There's
Yes.
such an ugly word.
The word stupid.
It's so
Think about
ugly
that.
thrown at them, and it stays. But it stays in your cells.
Yes.
Your cells have memories. It stays. It's a cellular thing. It stays with you through life.
Yeah.
And some overcome it, and some do not.
Yeah.
And many do not.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel that I've overcome it, but is it there? Absolutely.
It's still there.
It'll be there forever.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
So I want it. That's such a powerful story.
Thank you.
And I know it's shared by so many people who may be listening and viewing. I want to just give it a little minute to breathe. Let's just breathe and let's just take our time moving from that, because I really feel that.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the reasons I wanted to share that is that
yes.
I think there's other people out there that has
thousands,
experienced
millions.
This. And, we'd really love to hear that if you have
if you've had that experience, just share it with us.
Has had that experience
again, right? Yes.
And just know that it's not true. You can call it bullshit, right? And you can do something about that, and you can motivate yourself.
Yes,
and prove that individual was wrong.
Just like you said, you can say that's BS.
That's BS.
As a child, you can say it when you're 5 years old. You said, if you're 5 years old, you can say that's BS, right? Whatever. Because
really,
it doesn't matter. Call it out.
Working with our students to call it out.
Yes, call it out. Call it out, because that's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that again.
Yeah. So hopefully, if you're out there and you've experienced this, share it with us. We'd love to talk about it. Because it's a negative experience, but you can turn it into a positive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And not let it affect you in the way it's affecting you.
When we come back from our break from when we feature Anywhere Health, I want to talk about what I experienced growing up in my early school years as well. So let's take a quick break.
That's good. Yeah. So I think I'd like to talk more about this a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always wondering, why do I want to take breaks all the time? I think, because I'm so moved by what you're saying. I want to go, I want to kind of take it in, but So let me just go ahead and say, when I was going to school and, as a young girl, I was a bookworm, basically. I would walk miles in the Chicago winter weather to go to the library to check out a book and bring it back home and read it. I was
in Chicago,
bookish.
right?
I was very in Chicago. I was bookish, and I didn't have a teacher who would tear me down and tell me I was stupid or tell me what I could not do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I didn't have one who would build me up and tell me who I could become either.
That's so important.
I didn't have either. I was just there, basically. Mm-hmm. I kind of had to figure it out.
And how many of our students are just
How many have caught in the middle like that? Yeah. But I was still one of those students who was an empty a vessel that had knowledge poured into me. But,
really, you think about it, someone spends 12 years of their life.
Yes.
Just waiting to get out, from the walls of those schools. It's sad in many ways, and it's mandated, right? Getting back to the mandated model. Kids got to go to school. It's compulsory.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, because one of my favorite games when I played as a child was I played school. I was a teacher. I would have the little kids in the Chicago ghetto gather around when ring-a-ling-a-ling, Elizabeth's having school.
I like that story. When we come back from break, can you share that more with us? Because I think
pretty much
be a good story.
That was what I did. I was the school. I was known as Little Miss School Teacher in the neighborhood. Yes, and it was because I really enjoyed the joy and the power of learning. So I wanted to bring that to my friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's great. Yeah.
Yes.
So and we need to talk about your university experience too.
Okay.
I've been talking about professors.
Yes.
I'm speaking to one right here. So.
Hat lady professor. Yes.
So good. Well, thank you. We're looking forward. So we'll be back.
All right.
Hello, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh my God. Look at this one. Formula 9 presents 9 keys to raising one's consciousness. This book outlines how this can be done. Fear is an ever-present constant in people's lives. Many times, people give fear too much power. According to the universal law of growth and expansion, all of life is endowed with the spark to evolve towards higher forms and expressions. Thought is a living thing. Thank you for joining me in this Wisdom to Go moment.
Welcome back to Seriously No BS, a hard talk on education. And if you'd like to know more about us and our sponsor, Anywhere Healing, please visit our website at seriouslynobs.com. And Dr. E, I'd like to just really introduce a video. And, we've been talking about teachers and professors and really what goes on inside the walls of the school. But we really have to look at what's going on with our teachers today in our schools. So we're going to share a short video with you. So when we come back, we'll talk about that video.
Great.
And
Great.
What that looks like.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
let's get ready.
Apologists for the term I use, apologists for the education establishment, would say it's nothing to do with the school. It's not the school's fault. It's that it's poverty. That's the real problem. These are kids from poverty, and so there's nothing else the schools could be doing.
I don't believe that. You're going to tell me because somebody's poor, I grew up poor, just because somebody's poor, they don't have manners, they don't know right from wrong, you don't know you're not supposed to swear at an adult, you're not supposed to threaten people. Bottom line, whether you're poor, rich, whatever, you won't want somebody doing that to your mother. So why would you do that to somebody else? It's simple. It's got nothing to do with money or economics or any other word. If they're so poor, how come they all have the best of cell phones and they all have $100+ sneakers? And they brag about the T-shirts that they spend $30, $40, $50, where I'll go buy 3 for $6.
Now, you know what people will say to you? They say that if you get tough on kicking the kids out who aren't behaving in the way that you want, and many of these kids come from underprivileged backgrounds, poverty backgrounds, it will hurt their lives more because now they'll not even have high school degrees.
Hopefully, if they learn to follow the rules, because that's the way the real world works. You're going to go and teach kids in school that you can do this, you can do that, you have poor behavior, you're dysfunctional, you can threaten people. You got to get rid of them because that's not accepted. It's not accepted in society. I would like to know why it can be allowed in school, but if they act the same way any place outside of school, they would be arrested. So when you go to school, are you going to fool around? Yeah, you're kids. Is school boring? Yeah. They're kids. But you can't interfere with the process of education. The bottom line is, if they're not being educated, they're basically getting a high school diploma, they're illiterate, we are ruining a nation. And our administrators are allowing this, nobody cares. And it took me a long time to be retired in order to bring this up because all the teachers are afraid. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, because what has gone on is wrong. I have nothing. I'm not interested in the money. I'm not interested in becoming a celebrity. It's never been my style. I'm low-key. I'm doing this because something has to be done about it. It is wrong. I'm going to repeat it. We are ruining a nation.
Okay, Dr. E, we're back. So you want to share?
Wow, that was heavy. That was really heavy, serious stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that man was really on point. He had been to the mountaintop and back, you know. And he really had a lot to say, and he's done. We do have a problem with teachers quitting. And do you have any numbers on that? What are the statistics on teachers teaching?
I think
quitting these days.
There's some, large teacher vacancies.
Large vacancies.
But I think the United Nations says that we need about 69 million new teachers to be trained.
Nationally, so we know that internationally?
Nationally.
Oh,
right?
69.
So we're looking.
Say that number again, please.
69 million. So think about what that looks like. I mean, we just have teachers quitting every day. Right?
My goodness.
Because of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think in the state of California, there's only like 10,000 teachers going through the teacher training system now. So that doesn't even start to make up.
And the key reasons why he was leaving was because lack of support, feeling overwhelmed, the quality of the students coming who were just out of control and all that. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's something that we really, really have to look at.
We really do.
Working
really
with our teachers.
And we're going to have some teachers on the show as we get into
But, right now, Dr. E, as we move toward the end of the show today, I'd like to introduce a very, very special guest, Wally Wisdom.
Well, who do we have here? Little fellow, who are you and what are you?
Hi, my name's Wally. Wally Wisdom. It's such an honor to be here in front of you, Dr. E.
Well, Bob said when you were a surprise guest, I had no idea he was talking about an owl. An owl with a blue vest and green glasses. And he can talk.
And I can read too.
Can you add and subtract?
Maybe.
And your glasses fell off now.
Oh, it's okay. They're fine. I just got them on the way over here to make me look even smarter.
Really?
And I was so excited
we're gonna have to get you some glasses that can stay on your face so we can make sure that you're smart. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That sounds wonderful.
Well, what brings you here, Wally Wisdom? You're the cutest thing. Yes.
Oh, thanks so much, Dr. E. You see, I've read both of your books, Wisdom to Go, Formula 9. They're wonderful things.
You're a reader of books?
I am an avid reader of books. I like to study all the time in my tree.
Oh my goodness! What in particular do you like about my books, and what have you found that was useful?
Well, I was just listening in on what you and Bob were talking about earlier, and I noticed you guys talked about one of my favorite sections from your Formula 9 book, Know Thyself.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorite. As a teacher, as a university professor, I bring that into the classroom. First thing I put that on the table on the blackboard is to know thyself. Did you know, Wally, in most religious texts, the Bible, the Quran, the Talmud, or the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you want to call it, one of the fundamental rules they say is to know thyself. It's a fundamental law of life. You know what that means?
When I read the book, what I saw was that it was knowledge of self and understanding of self.
Understanding of self. And what kind of knowledge are we talking about when we say knowledge of self?
There you go. I know that I'm an owl. I know I like to read. I know I really like to eat rats.
Well, you know something. So you know what? So what you do is knowing that self is making that an expanded project, a lifelong project. You know, you like rats and you like to eat. Obviously, you like to read. You like books.
Very much.
Do you know how your thoughts work? Do you know the nature of your thoughts and why you think certain things that you do? Why you feel certain things? It goes really deep. You gone that deep?
I don't think I've.
Well,
I don't think I've thought that deeply before.
Part of it. Yes, and the more we know ourselves, the more we can master our lives and our experiences. Yes.
Oh, wow.
But you strike me as someone who's really, really an avid learner, and so you're Wally Wisdom. So maybe that's your wisdom, is because you love to learn. You're a lifelong learner.
I do.
Learning is wise. Yes, I like that. Yes. Will you be coming to see me again on the show and tell me more about what you're doing? And maybe we can get you a new vest and some new glasses too. Yes?
That'd be really wonderful.
Yes.
I could do some new glasses so I can see a lot better. Then I can catch a lot more rats on my off time.
So I tell you what. So when you leave, go to your tree where you go, or where do you lay your head at night or spend the rest of your day, and just start this little exercise of reflection. That's how you begin to know yourself, is start to reflect. Think about you. Put everything else out of your mind, but just think about you. Who are you? What you like, what you don't like, how you feel. Get in touch with yourself in the most deepest way. And when you come back on my show to see me the next time, tell me what you came up with. Huh?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That's wonderful. Ooh, I will do that. I'll go back to my tree and I'll reflect on who I am.
And reward yourself with a great big rat when you're done.
Oh, I will. I absolutely will. Maybe even before I'm done too.
Thanks for joining Seriously No BS. And if you'd like to learn more about us, please visit seriouslynobs.com. And we'd like to thank our audio engineers, Matt, Michael, and Jordan, and our production crew.